I feel like one of the biggest parts to go where you're heading in life is to really embrace what you're given. And, excuse me,
Okay.
I feel like we don't have many people that are showing the humanity inside of their lives. I feel like that superficial image is exactly what is kind of creating that illusion behind the artistry. It's the illusion behind, I'm this way, or like I've attained these kind of accolades. But reality is I've got to where I'm going because you have to follow your intuition to a very severe degree. If you will doubt yourself along the process to success, it is not cut out for you.
No.
And I feel like you are cut from a different cloth when you face adversity and you can still manage to see triumph in the end. See that little light at the end of the tunnel. And every single situation that, they don't tell you about the moments of hopelessness. They don't tell you about the moments of when you're going to feel unmotivated, unencouraged, but you are the one that has to become encouraged. You're the one who has to be motivated.
Dude, we've been talking for the past, 10, 15 minutes going in. We're just jumping straight into this, but I think overall our vibe, man, it's just, I like the vibe now because it just started right out the gate. We're talking preliminaries, but it actually just flowed into the pod, man. But, before we get started, and, I want you to finish that thought because we were talking about, the platform here and what Still Here podcast does. Tell everybody your name real quick and who you are, where you're from, and kind of your title, what do you got going on?
Absolutely. So my name is Xiihab. I'm a multi-genre artist out here in the Central Valley. Kind of moved all around California, and international artist as well. I've worked with a lot of different faces in a lot of different places, and we're here today on Still Here podcast.
Yeah.
And I wanna give a really big shout out to Still Here podcast because this is my first ever podcast that's getting filmed, and this is history in the making. So most of all, thank you for Still Here podcast. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this platform. And I feel like it's gonna be amazing today.
No, I agree, man. I'm with you on that because I feel the same way. Again, I've been listening to your music since we planned this. Since I think you hit me up last year. And it was like maybe early November. You're like, yo, how can I get on? Let's talk about it. And I'm like, I'm scheduled up towards, and here you are, and I've been listening to your music, man. And, again, it just reminds me of my era. We were talking about how old I was, pre, I'm 41 and, again, Jodeci vibes, all these Casey and JoJo, and just the artistry behind it, man, it's I think from my workout, it slows me down because a lot of people want to get hyphy. A lot of people just want to get, just get beat up in the gym. But me, I think it kind of gave me a different mindset. So I think overall your vibe here, even on our conversation, again, it's resonating. And I want to say it's resonating a lot. So I appreciate you coming out, man. But I interrupted you before. I was like, man, we might as well start. So again, how'd you hear about the show? What kind of got your attention, man? And and you were mentioning something about you saw my story about being sick, dying, and dead out.
And it's ironic because when I had first stumbled upon the podcast and I had seen the condition that you were in preliminary, number one, it's inspiring to see somebody in such a position to take it into consideration of how you can use it as an opportunity to feel triumph. I feel like many people can take the opportunities that life throw their way, and sometimes it's a disadvantage that life throws at them, but the perception of how you can take those opportunities, you took it as something that can be encouraging, something that can be invigorating for the future, and you built off of it. And craziest part is when I had seen that you essentially practically died twice. Somebody in my family, actually, he was on I think it was ABC or Fox News. His name's Mustafa Mitchell, and it's my blood brother, and he actually ended up on ECMO as well. During the whole COVID era, he ended up having his lungs collapsing on him multiple times, having fluid in his lungs. He had to literally breathe off of life support. And when I had seen the same thing happen with somebody else relatively, and it's just ironic because after everything was said and done with him, he took the initiative to say, I'm not going to put a hold up on my dreams. I've been wanting to make a catering business, and now he does it here in town. He has a real nice setup, all the branding, and you see him out in community events. And when I had seen that, and I had seen somebody that had relatively done the same exact thing, I was like, man, like this is what inspiration really is. It's taking those negative moments and taking those moments where you can feel defeated, but instead you find victory in it instead. So yeah.
That's dope. Give him a shout out. Does he have a social media?
Absolutely.
Maybe
Miracle Man Barbecue.
Okay, dude, we got to get him on.
Absolutely. Oh no, absolutely.
We got to get him on.
I talked to him, and while we're on the subject, I know we're going to talk about it a little later to touch on who I've worked with and how I came across the people I've worked with. But I was working at Pita Grill. It's a place here on Shaw, and I'm Middle Eastern personally, so I'm at a joint where they're doing the same exact thing from where I come from, and I get a call from my brother, and he's like, "Yo, you know, you got to get on so forth and so forth on Blackstone for Sean's down here." And I'm a very big advocate for music, so it don't matter what genre it is, it doesn't matter what timeline it is. If I get the opportunity to go meet somebody that essentially can kick me some game, it's not even an opportunity in my eyes. I see it as like this is a chance to see somebody that's already in a position essentially, or has been to the places that I'm achieving to strive to go and even exceed. So I showed up, rapped him a song right there in the street, like he was right there hanging out in front of one of the tattoo shops, and he showed me love. And at that point, I was like, man, like my brother's out here doing things he doesn't have to do, and he already got his whole business going. And instead of kind of putting his shit out there, can I curse on here?
No, yeah, whatever you want.
Okay,
Yeah, be yourself.
I want to make sure, like, I
no,
don't man, say nothing,
we have a lot of people that do that. So you good, bro?
Absolutely. So he threw me a bone essentially, and he's like, bro, like here's an opportunity, like see what's going on with it. And I showed up, showed him my music. He fucked with it. He showed me love. I hit him up later that day on Instagram, and you know, he hit me back, and it's all love. So at that point, I'm like, all right, cool. Like I've worked with a couple of artists locally. Now I know somebody that has their name made here in Fresno, and it just gives me the perspective upon like, you have to really put in that work. You have to really know where you're from, regardless if people know me everywhere and out and about. At least knowing the fact that I've relatively implemented myself here in the Fresno culture, that's what's critical to me, because you got to show love where you're at. You know,
that's real, man. Because again, I mean, like you said, to your, you know, just again, we talked before, man. It's like I feel like you have an experience for such a young age, man. It's not like because hey, you're young, you shouldn't be or should be at a certain level. I just think it just hits people. It just hits people different, you know, and you know, the heart, the drive, the experiences, man. And so, I mean, you sent me a list. I mean, your bio. I mean, it's dope, man. So again, I mean, but again, like you said, this is your first podcast to kind of get your story out there.
Absolutely.
You know, let's tell your story. Let's get behind, like you said right here, the mentality of it, you know, to kind of like put it finally out there. What pushed you? What made you want to like really get out there more and tell your story?
No, absolutely. So first and foremost, when I was younger, growing up in grade school, I was gifted by life the opportunity of not growing up in a home with conjoined parents. And the reason why I say gifted rather than kind of like I was at a disadvantage, because I like to see opportunities the way that they present themselves. And typically most people, you know, they look at things a certain manner where it can't really provide you with a bigger blessing, essentially. And not knowing what I had later in my future. In my youth, I didn't have the opportunity to be as sociable as others due to the fact that I was moving around so much. So having came from a household that wasn't essentially put together well, or just a typical household, in order for me to socialize correctly with others, my first instinct myself was to begin writing. So it started off with poetry. It started off with like little pages here and there of just like free thought kind of stuff. But then eventually I started to find myself gravitating towards music. Almost everybody in my family listened to music. We had some rock music going on, some 90s music going on, gangster rap, alternative hip hop, R&B, whatever it is. Like I've had my fingers in every single pot for a minute. So it's like at that point, growing up with so many influences, I decided at one point, like I really gravitated towards rock music. A lot of teenagers, a lot of adolescents, you know, when they're growing up, they enjoy loud, obnoxious music. So I definitely got into music that I enjoyed a lot. But the issue was I always looked to make music, but didn't have that opportunity, unfortunately, due to moving around so much. So with that being said, I started writing music and found myself writing rock music, trying to find bandmates, but I was moving around so much and I couldn't end up holding a band. I worked with people here and there, but eventually it was until the junior year of high school where my brother ended up having a program installed on his computer. It was called FL Studio. And I'm like, all right, this is pretty dope. And then it was a production program. And literally from the day he had downloaded on his computer, I think I stuck on that for like maybe a month, 2 months straight. Like my summer vacation flew by, but I was like, I don't really care. My focus is so centered in on trying to see what I can do with this, because I always heard the music, but I was not able to play the instruments. So having a production program at my at my disposal to utilize. All it took at that point was time. So over time, I started to learn how to produce. Over time, I started to piece all the puzzle pieces together, and eventually I started to get a grasp on production. Then when I started getting recording equipment, cheap stuff online from Amazon, saving up my allowance, tried recording terrible music. I am my biggest critic. Looking back on what I made as a child, I will not bash myself like that, but reality is, looking at where I'm at
Give
now,
yourself a little grace.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm like, man, okay. But at the time, I was just strucken with this sense of inspiration, because I'm like, man, if I can make all this stuff, I know it can only get better from here. You gotta make mistakes. You gotta fall before you start getting back up, learn how to walk, because it doesn't matter how many times you fall off the horse. It's how many times you're willing to get back on it, and continue that journey. So at that, I was like, all right. So I started to learn how to engineer. Engineering is more on the mixing side, where you're going to get those vocals just right, where everything sounds good, crisp. It doesn't sound like it's on top of the track or under the track. It sounds like it's in it with some headspace. So studied about that stuff for a minute. And it was ironic because my cousin was the one that was the only person in the family that was into music. And he was in the engineering side, but I was on the beat side. So I kind of took a little bit from him. Shout out Yassine Ibrahim. And then he took a little bit from me when it came to production. Moving forward, it was just project after project. And then finally, junior year of high school, what ended up happening was that same year I went to Office Depot. I printed out cover arts from a photographer that I found at school that I was messing around with graphic design. Then I got burned CDs from Walgreens. Then I slapped them into my HP laptop that was like $200. The CPU was overdriving every single time I would try to make a beat, let alone try to burn a CD. And I burnt about, I think it was 100 copies. So I did the mental math. I was like, all right, I got 100 copies of these CDs. I went to Office Depot. I got the little paper envelopes. It wasn't even the cases. And it looks like it's right out from you're trying to buy a burnt DVD from one of those stores. It's looking exactly the same.
Yo, I come from that time, man.
Man, tell me about it. And I got little Scotch tape and put the cover art right on the envelopes. So at that point, I went back to school the next day, and word of mouth went around. I was putting out songs before I got up to that little EP. And like I said, not the best music, but I bet you people that I still went to high school with, they send me pictures all the time. They're like, bro, I still got your shit. And I was like, that's crazy, because went to school, and I think within the first day I sold about 80 copies.
Nice.
So as a 16-year-old child who went to school and invested all of their allowance, they saved up for almost 6 months, to going home with about damn near $400, $500 in my pocket. And at that point I come home and my mom's like, there's something going on here. And I was like, I told you I make music. And she's like, no, you went to
slanging.
School. No, straight up. So she's like, you went to school with these CDs, you're coming back with this kind of money. And it's very hard for me to believe that you're not somewhere in your career and you're managing to accumulate this amount of money. So I ended up getting set off to Middle East Jordan. So she's like, you're obviously doing something's going on here. Oh yeah, it was a whole process as a child. I got sent off to a different country. I got humbled within itself to get prepared for my adulthood. But within that sense, I came back and I did it all over again. I got the CDs. This time I got the actual cases off of Amazon, and I sold it for the second time. That time, I think I came home with about $300, $350, dollars.
What year was this when you got sent out and all that? And you made your first bag, then got sent out, then came back. When did all this go down?
So 2015 to 2016, I graduated 2016, and I got sent to a senior year. And I told my mom, I was like, yo, mom, I've been to 16 different schools. We have moved a lot growing up, going back and forth between you and my dad. I was like, I am barely passing my classes. You send me off now, I will not pass high school. And she's like, well, I'm sorry to say it, but there's something funny going on around here. And if I don't do something now, then you're going to end up, growing to be somebody that I'm trying to prevent you from becoming. So I was like, I admire it. I understand it. And, she's just doing what a mother does, looking out for her children. And by the time I came back, I had to make up, I think 6 classes on top of my normal classes just to graduate. Wow. I still released the next album after that. And then from there, it was just, it took off. And I moved out the next year because I was quite frankly, I have a vision and I have a goal. I was sleeping at one of my best friend's houses at the time. I slept on I bummed it out on his couch for almost about a year and a half. I was struggling from job to job, learning about relationships in and out of those things. And just, things got really messy where I came from, where I finished off high school at. And, a lot of static ended up happening, a lot of commotion and a lot of he said, she said stuff. So at that point it was man, I got to really move up out of here. And that's really where a lot of artists get stuck in, because I feel like when you don't receive that love from where you come from, or at least where you're trying to settle in, it kind of gives you the initiative of like, all right, well, if I can't do this, I got to take it to some place that I'm going to be able to do this at. So after I moved in this, it was my relative's house at this time. And I moved in and just shit was hitting the fan left and right. I wasn't able to connect with them correctly. Just getting the idea of being an adult under somebody else's household that, quite frankly, it's not my family's, it's, it's my relatives. And just things ended up happening. Like, eyes weren't eye to eye. It wasn't met. And at that point, it's like, all right, so I moved on. And at that point, I started living out of my uncle's auto garage for almost about a year. So I was straight homeless and just bumming it out of his house.
How old are you this time?
At that time, I was about 19 years old.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, I really didn't care for music. I was like, man, I got to get my life together. Like, I got to at least have my 2 feet in the sand before I start doing something. And a couple months went by, but that was the biggest thing. Despite everything that was going on, I couldn't help it. And I couldn't find it upon myself to not make music. I would be like, nah, this ain't for me. But I was always playing beats. I was always making beats. I was like trying to make something. But when your life is in a position where you can't feel inspired, trying to find inspiration in those moments, you're just like, something's got to give eventually. And Lord knew something ended up giving, because one of my distant uncles it was like a second uncle, ended up seeing the position I was in. He brought me in. He had me pay a little bit of rent. He helped me get a car. And then I was off to San Diego with a couple of homies that I was barely getting acquainted with. One thing led to the next, still wasn't the answer. I ended up coming back to Fresno. And it was before my grandpa passed away, and God bless his soul and rest in peace. And I came back to make sure I was with him on those final days. Then I got into another relationship, and one thing went to the next. I made a lot of connections despite it. That was the biggest thing. Despite every single experience, despite where I went, I was still intaking a lot of information, meeting a lot of different people, getting inspired, and doing through it all. Coming back here to Fresno, things didn't turn out right again. Landed right on my face. Eventually, I was like, man, I don't want to do this college shit. And I love music. And it's already giving me, like, it's showing me the fruits of my labor. Wow. But I'm just like, man, they're coming to fruition at a time in my life where I'm not able to seize the fruits of my labor. So it's like,
how old are you at this point?
At this point, this was about last year. So
this is recent. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So fast forward, now now I came over to my brother's house, because once again, I was at the point where I didn't have a place to stay. He opened his doors to me, but at this point, I was so stricken from my last situation, that my mentality wasn't in the right place. You stick around the wrong people for so long, it ends up taking a toll on you.
Yeah, it's real.
And that relationship, it taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot of how to communicate with others and how I should carry myself and handle myself. But most of all, it left me in a place where I had to grow from. Didn't meet eye to eye with my brother at the time, and he's a very stern person. He's a very strict person.
Older, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And he's had many walks of life himself. And I ended up actually getting acquainted with another relative of mine. My brother, I hadn't really talked to him. I'm the youngest of 4 children as well.
Okay.
So seeing one of my other brothers and seeing him at one point, we didn't meet eye to eye. So he's like, you got to bounce. You got to figure it out on your own. Struggled for 1 to 2 months, ended up getting another car. And then my homie Omar El Hindi, which is a homie out here in Fresno. He's, I think he's toured once or twice, and he's like, got acquainted with Drake and a couple of other people. He's one of the really, really big artists here in Fresno. And now he's out in Moldova studying for like, orthodontist, to become an orthodontist. He wants to work on teeth, and he's kind of already done his passion with music, but his father at the time allowed me to stay with them and gave me a job, allowed me to get on my feet, and just, he saw how badly I was trying to work towards the music. And he's like, I know you want to make it, but you also got to stand on your feet first, because the more that you're going to keep struggling, the more you're going to put yourself through things, it's going to hinder your ability to succeed. So eventually my brother kind of gave in, and he's like, hey, I think at this point you got a job now, you're working, you're able to talk to me, you're able to communicate. Let's give it another shot. Come on over. I moved in, started working job to job. I think within the past year, I jumped to about like 5 different jobs, if I'm not mistaken. And
well, your resume is stacked.
Man, tell me about it. And
well, hearing you, this explains, like you said on this list, this really explains the mentality.
Yeah.
The redirecting and the approach of putting the art back where it belongs, because again, I think some of the best stories you hear, you see, and I think even movies, man, when people you know, I'm a fan of like Rocky movies where people struggled, you know, when the triumph, you know, again, like I said before, and I always say on the show, the story behind the glory. Absolutely. Everyone just thinks, oh man, this dude just knows. This was just poof given. No, man, you don't know what I've been through. You know, again, one of my favorite movies, 8 Mile, you know, he's at that last battle with Papa Doc. He's like, man, I know everything you're going to say. You don't know what the fuck that I've been through, but, you know, and it's like, you don't know, man. But here's what I'm doing, you know, and I guess that's the, I don't know, man. That's to me is the best underdog story, man. Where you're underestimated, you know, you're not really taken serious. You know, it's like, you know, you got to do this on your own, you know, and that's what I'm seeing. And that's what I'm hearing, man. You know, and it's like now, like for your story now, you know, you say here, he's like not falling for the superficial image of what it means to be creative, you know, because again, people have this mindset of like, you know, for instance, like there's some, because I grew up where people were they're pastors' kids, and they want to become these hip hop artists. Yeah. So they were raised in church, but they don't have the street credit, so they put themselves mentally like, oh, I've sold some drugs. Man, dude, you sold Tylenol. You know, you don't have nothing to write. You don't have nothing to write about. You don't have the experience. This superficial mindset just to try to come up with this creative, you know, like, oh, look at my story, you know. And again, I don't mess with people like that. Even now at my age, man, it's like I don't glean from people who haven't, you know, experienced the real, you know, whether it was self-inflicted or whether you had no choice but to go through it, it was put on you, you know. So, and I think hearing you so far, man, just really, you know, explains your music that I've been listening to. Yeah. You know, maybe go over your, you know, after saying all that, what you've gone through about following your intuition, did you know, or how did you know the intuition, would at least at this point lead you up to where you're at right now?
That's a fantastic question. And I think that it led me to where I'm at now because to touch base on what you just brought up, I feel like one of the biggest parts to go where you're heading in life is to really embrace what you're given. And, you know, excuse me, I feel like we don't have many people that are showing the humanity inside of their lives. I feel like that superficial image is exactly what is kind of creating that illusion behind the artistry. It's the illusion behind, you know, I'm this way, or like I've attained these kind of accolades. But reality is I've got to where I'm going because you have to follow your intuition to a very severe degree. If you will doubt yourself along the process to success, it is not cut out for you. No. And I feel like you are cut from a different cloth when you face adversity and you can still manage to see triumph in the end, you know, see that little light at the end of the tunnel. And every single situation that, you know, they don't tell you about the moments of hopelessness. They don't tell you about the moments of when you're going to feel unmotivated, unencouraged, but you are the one that has to become encouraged. You're the one who has to be motivated. And it's like, without those things, without that backbone and that spine to survive in life, and anything can knock you down at that point. So,
well, that's real. I mean, let me ask you this, man, where are you at with following your mind or your heart? Because I think those two are two different entities of who we are, but I feel like obviously it's like a yin and yang. You don't need, you know, you need one. You can't have one without the other. But where do you lean on following the mind or the heart? Where do you lean?
I love that question because I'm crazy in the things that I study too. Like I like supernatural and like esoteric metaphysical stuff. And there's something called mind and heart coherence. And mind and heart coherence basically talks about the way that you can envision something in your mind is something that you have to feel in your heart. And don't get me wrong, in a world where feelings can interrupt the success that you're trying to achieve, you know, you feel something about somebody, you think that that's the right move and it turns out it's the wrong move. Or you care too much about a situation, you get way too invested and you start missing out on opportunities. Yeah. Or you think that it's a great idea, but the second you're in the actual scenario, you don't feel like it's right. So I feel like those two things, the mind and the heart, have to work together because you can't be feeling too much and you can't be thinking too much. If you're thinking too much, you're going to let things pass you by. If you're feeling too much, you're going to get way too invested in things that might not be that worthy at the end, you know? And I feel like life speaks for itself. You can see how much something is actually worth based upon the fruits of the labor that will come to fruition from it. So,
I mean, that's real. I like that. Cause again, I mean, you know, I don't know a lot about, you know, my third eye, the universe, you know, I'm not that guy, you know, I don't know. I just think, you know, to me, I think there's reality and then there's next level, the universe. And it's like, I don't know. I've never achieved that, or at least push my thoughts and mind to that. I've had a lot of guests on that think that way. Hey man, more power to you, but the reality is, like you said, and one thing I love about, cause I feel like this is flowing perfect, man, because, when it comes down to it, man, your situation, anything that happens, cause again, you said getting involved and making change despite how small you may be, because again, this comes from the experience of like, man, I've been through this. I haven't accomplished much. I'm still trying to like find my voice, my sound, my identity, who I am, but still moving forward, with your mind, with your heart, with the passion. Explain that, getting involved and making a change despite how small you may be, explain that.
So I feel like within any creative direction that you plan to implement yourself, impact is critical. So it's like, for example, how I stumbled upon your podcast in general. It's like you must have, to at least a certain degree, created such an impact for your name, for this whole production to be going out to different places. Now, for me to have the ability to get this opportunity, I'm like, all right, cool. This is not only like an opportunity for somebody else, but reality is, I feel like this goes back into the superficial illusion of what you are. I feel like because people see followers, because they don't see the special guests, because they don't see like certain features from the artist, whatever it is that you may consider success, I don't believe that success is defined by accolades. I don't believe that success is defined by something that you attain. I think it's a mentality. And one of the biggest parts to it is like, you have to be able to really like understand how much you're willing to do to achieve that success. And on a small scale, most people are like, well, I'm not big enough to be doing A, B, and C. It's like, go start a foundation. Go start, I don't know, go feed the homeless. Do something that can be beneficial to everybody around you. Because if you're just eating by yourself, regardless if you're a small artist, you're not helping nobody else. But the more that you plan to feed others through what you have achieved, it goes to show that you can spread the wealth around. It doesn't have to be singular. It can actually be cohesive among everyone else in the community. So,
no, that's what's up, man.
You have to.
I agree with that, man, because again, everyone defines success. I would say today's society and today's culture just define success by accolades, followers, likes, reputation, and what you're doing and how you're doing it. Again, being 41, man, being old, it's funny to see where I'm at, because I was your age at one time, man. I was that young kid, man, that I was invincible. I felt invincible, man. But when reality hit, at least I knew how to respond every time. Now that I'm older, because you've met my family, it's not like it's not like this thing where I'm this hype beast, this boy's got the squad, this boy's got the hype. Look at me. No, I'm a simple guy now, man, because I did my time, in the streets. I did my time out and about, man. And now that I'm older, my definition of success is when no one knows about it, because again, that changes you. Because as artists, as people who create, especially as content creators, and I've said this a million times, man, people are regurgitating the same shit on social media every day.
That part.
Based on other people's experiences and making it their own. Like, oh, this is my interpretation of motivation or new me, self-reflection, and I feel like my definite, again, the success is that nobody knows about is when they meet me, they see me, they meet my family, they meet my household, and they meet what we're doing here, and they think that's different. We're not posting about it. Again, it's what people see rather than what you say or post. To me, that's success, but then when they see, when they like the vibe I'm getting from you, it's like, then when I see your work and when I see what you're putting out, that makes sense. And that's when you don't, when you don't have to point out your own success and people do for you, that's success.
I like that, because I feel like it's word to the way that life is created in general. It's the things that are done in hiding that are appreciated once they come to fruition. Once again, it's like, when you see it, do you see a tree grow when you plant the seed, or does it take years and years to actually allow it to grow? I feel like, and that's a critical part, because there's gonna be a lot of nights where nobody's noticing the work you're putting in. There's gonna be a lot of times where you do have good intentions, but you come across the people that could help you, but instead of helping you, you're going to have to take the long route around it. So it's like after it all just depends. Are you willing to be somebody that works in silence in order for everybody to understand what you've done later on?
Yeah. I mean, because again, there has to be a sense. And I think one of the problems we see now, man, is even that false humility that, anybody says that you're humble, you're not humble, because not one humble person would ever say that, but it's a lived out, I'm a guy that lives it out, man. I don't talk, if I talk, I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from the place of where I've erred the most, because I've grown from it, and I think that's kind of the essence. That's the essence of this show, man, is, speaking from experience, man, speaking from, the parts like I don't have it together, but I understand where I'm at. And yes, I understand when people come here, they don't expect this, because my house is low key, man. It's like underground, man. It's like, you don't expect this. And when people are didn't expect this,
man,
and again, I let it speak for itself, and so I think, again, when it comes down to this whole conversation, even up to now, man, for me, again, I don't want to keep harping on the age, but 24 years old, man, you've been through the experience, and I feel like, I do genuinely hear it in your music, and so, and it comes down to perfecting the craft, perfecting the struggle, perfecting, the situation as best you can, because it can't change. It couldn't get no worse. It's not going to get any different. It's not going to go fast or slow. Sure. It's just, how do I perfect this moment? And I think when I got sick, I had to learn to perfect the moment and understand, all right, I'm in, it's not changing right now. I got to find out, how do I grow in this, and to kind of segue, into that. Cause again, bro, I feel like this conversation is flowing, man. It's like you put down perfecting your craft despite where you start. Why is that important to you? Why did you, put that down, especially now leading up to where you're at right now?
I feel like, it's good to be satisfied as a person. It's not wrong to appreciate what you have. Of anything, that is the way that you begin to appreciate life to a higher degree. I feel like once you begin to appreciate what you have, that's when life's going to give you an opportunity to give you more. Essentially, it's going to bless you and gift you with more. Some may think that those are obstacles. Some may say that they're blessings because they give you a new perspective on the way you look at things and see things. So of anything, it gives you experience. Most of all, I feel like perfecting your craft is critical, because if you are satisfied with where you are in your life, there is no room to grow. For example, you go to the gym, you get the results you want, then what do? You just keep upkeeping, or you're going to keep striving for your goals. You're going to keep creating goals. And, it kind of puts a lot of people into the mindset of nothing is ever enough, which is not the mindset I encourage. What I encourage, on the other hand, is pushing yourself past your capability, allowing yourself to grow. It's the defining moments where you're not able to understand where to go, and getting through those moments to show you like, wow, I had the ability to do what I thought I couldn't do the whole time. Like, wow, like this is a prime example of my mentality is what is stopping me. And if I can shift my mentality and I could feel it in my heart, like, yeah, I can actually do it, then you're going to get there. And perfecting your craft is a very critical part to that, because when you always want to get better, when you want to find something, and that's the reason why I'm going to school. I'm not into school. I mean, if people are into school, if you're headed somewhere that requires school, I encourage it. Me as an artist, I'm like, what can I do for myself? How can I learn how to produce better? How can I learn how to engineer better? I might not be there for the degree. Who knows? Maybe I see it through. I don't know. I don't know the future. But what I do know is the more that I apply myself, the more that I'm trying to become better, the more that my fruits of my labor will come to fruition. So
that's real.
Yeah.
That's real, man. Because again, like you have, are you getting hot? You want?
No, I'm straight. I'm just gonna take off my jacket. Yeah.
No, yeah. Because one thing because you have the artistry and the journey, man. Again, I love how this is flowing. When it comes to like the experience is what, at least again, where we're at in our craft. Because again, no one sees or knows about the late nights, the struggle, the doubts, the mentality, because again, you are your worst critic. We are our worst critiques, and especially when you're trying to put out content and you're like, should I not? But
is
again,
that the one? Is it not the one? Like,
how many remakes and you think
straight up?
Yeah, because I feel you on that, especially when it comes to video production, content creating. Because I'm never a guy that's redundant, that repeats what everyone does. I don't follow fads, dude. I don't follow trends. I put out guests that come on, and everyone's like, that's exactly how I'm thinking. That's who I am right now. You know, that's the mentality. I'm like, I guarantee you there are going to be people that listen and watch this. They're like, I'm at where this guy's at right now, you know? And again, that's my goal for this show, you know, because it tells the story. It tells the struggle, and it still tells the fight. It's showing the fight that, you know, if you think you've arrived and you've made it, dude, you're lost. You know, I really believe that. At my age, 41, I'm not. There's so many more levels that I want to achieve, man. It's just not so much financially, man, but how can I set a trend without being obvious, without everyone? Because everyone, when you set a style for your brand and your style, your music, you know, and they hear it's like, that's Xiihab, man.
Man,
you know,
I want to touch base on that real quick, because I've been in plenty of scenarios within the past couple of years where I found myself, you know, observing content, digesting content from others that I kept very close in my circle. I make sure to keep people at a distance unless I can trust them. I mean, I feel like everybody should give their trust in a way where you understand who you're giving it to. Now, on the other hand, you know, as a hungry artist growing up, I was really looking for those opportunities. And then eventually I started to see, like, you know, X, Y, and Z is moving this way. Or like, he never done that before until I came around. And it's ironic that I'm starting. And like, the craziest part is if you're going to approach these people and be like, hey, yo, I know, you know, I see you doing something. And I was doing, like, I don't do that no more. You know, I used to be in a very, I used to be in a very bothered place where I would feel the need to speak up about these things until I realized when you become appreciated to a degree where you start seeing people do what you do, you're like, man, okay, I'm not in the trendsetter seat no more. I'm not the one that's following those trends. You know, I'm in the seat where I'm actually allowing myself to create them, you know? I am literally in that seat. You know, these people are not in that seat anymore, but I can take that throne and be like, all right, well, you must be taken after somebody. And I'm not going to speak about it because, as you said earlier, if you are humble, you do not speak about the blessings that come your way. And I used to get very frustrated because I saw these people start to get attraction. They started to get more buzz. They started to have more people paying attention to things they're doing that are literally like, if not a copy paste scenario, it's like, all right, it's just something that I'm just going to have to digest, keep my chin up, suck it up, and keep having more ideas. Because that's the truth about a creative. One creative idea that somebody takes away, you're going to have 99 left in the vault. Yeah. And if you don't have any ideas left and you're out here looking at everyone else, it's like, that's exactly why people follow trends, because they don't got no ideas for themselves. I see you doing what you're doing, and I'm like, just this setup and just the appearance alone, I'm like, nah, I fuck with it. Like, this is different. I like the production crew. I like the way that you run everything. And it's like, bro, like, you don't have enough of these kind of scenarios no more. You don't have that authenticity, that originality, that creative sense of mind where you're going to innovate with what you got. And it's like, I admire it, bro.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate that. You know, one thing, because me and my wife, we talk about this stuff, man. There's other things, other projects that I'm working on. And there's, you know, there's one thing, I have a foundation that I've been trying to work on even before I got sick. Slowed it down, man. But there are several organizations here in town that are doing the same thing. Had a couple of friends of mine that are part of my board, and they're like, yo, man, they're doing the same thing, man. I don't know. And they start thinking about what they're doing, and like, well, they're ahead of us and they're already doing this. Like, I don't care. You know, because again, people can, what's the saying? They can copy the recipe, man, but they cannot duplicate the sauce.
Hold on. Because I like what you just said. My brother with his business, at one point, my sister-in-law is telling him, it's like, yo, you can't be showing people how you cook the food. You can't be telling them what's inside of it. And he's like, I'm going to tell you something, baby. I don't really mind, because they can know exactly what goes in it, but they can't do it like I do it. And I had to pause for a moment. That's like a pause moment, like, all right, nah, straight up, I got nothing to worry about, because reality is, if you're not the person doing what you created, it don't matter how many other people do it, because it looks counterfeit. Something's off.
They know.
Straight up.
And that's where I'm at with the show. That's where I'm at with my foundation. And, you know, again, I think what speaks clearly for me, man, is the experience, is because it's me. You know, I never followed the crowd, man. And I think that's kind of been my thing, man. But again, it came down to I had to change my mental thinking. I had to change it. Because at one point I was worried about it. I wasn't too confident in myself, you know, and this was like, I would say 5-6 years ago when I started my business, when I left my job to be my own creator, you know. to be a dependent on myself. But the thing is, it's like when it's you, people know. You know, when you see other people doing it, they know. You know, it's not like we're seeking approval. But again, I'm so focused on creating and having such dope dudes on you, but like you on to tell your story. Then the next step is like, well, who else is going to do that now? Because I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see what we're doing. Because I take this for what it is. It's just a podcast. You know, everyone's doing it. 1 billion other podcasts worldwide. But how to set apart is because I'm a type of guy, man. If I'm a relational guy, if I can meet you on a relational, man, without cameras, you know, that's the story I want to know in people. You know, essentially, I don't care about the success. I don't care about what's going good. I want to know what got you there. And that's what I want to tell. And again, when you hear the stories, like, oh, they're copying me, they're you know, they're biting my style. It's like, they are, but they can't duplicate you, you know, and that's, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one kind of mentality that I follow for life is like, you can't fake the funk, bro. You know, if it got funk, it got funk. It don't got funk, it don't got funk. And I mean, like, that's what I stay seeing. Like, I don't get caught up on those small moments no more, because that just gives you an opportunity to realize how much power you have as a person, you know, and power is not how much you can make other people realize you have power. Power is self-recognized. It's how much you see within yourself. So,
yeah, again, it comes down to, again, it takes me back to, that's why I'm not a hype guy, man. Because at some point when they follow it and it's like the hype dies out, it's like, yeah, then that really wasn't you, man. So I don't promote hype. I just promote like we hear it again, a cliche, man. My goal in 2023, man, is to renew the cliche, not by saying it a lot, but by showing it.
Straight up.
You know, and I think that's really, that's been the goal for Still Here. That's, you know, this is the goal to have guys on you, like, you know, as guests, you know, but to get back onto, because you know, you put on here, you know, starting from writing to making rock music, hearing music in your head, being introduced to the FL Studio, not being able to read music theory, but knowing when the music sounds right. And again, these are the type of, this is who I am, man. I back in my day, I used to be a youth pastor, I used to be in church a lot. I played drums, I played guitar, I played all that. But I
need you on the track, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet.
Something.
Yeah, you know, but I taught myself how to play drums without drums.
That's passion.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't use pots and pans. I just knew. I didn't have the coordination. I didn't have, you know. But the thing is like I'm reading this again. You taught yourself to know music theory without even knowing if it sounds right. I mean, you talk about that. Let's talk about your beginning, because I want to get into the multi-genre artist, the international, all the stuff you've been doing. You know, kind of start your process. Now, going to your process where you're at now, how and what your accomplishments, how you started teaching yourself music theory, you know, being introduced to the FL Studio and all that.
Absolutely. So the irony that growing up, I had told my mom while we were moving around, I'm like, yo, you know, I like rock music. I want to play the drums. I really like the drums a lot. And it's crazy because I'm a very hyperfixated person. So when I do things, I need to actually like delve into it. I need to be preoccupied in what I'm doing, because drums, for example, helps people like me in a sense, because when you play the drums, you're actually using about like, I believe it's like 2 to 3 parts of your brain. So and it's the same thing for piano, and it's like certain motor skills within your brain. And over time, I was telling my mom like, hey, I want to do this. I want to get into it. She stuck me in there, and then I tried to get a hold of percussion. Even the teacher was like, I get it, you want to play, but this is an intermediate jazz band. My mom put me in intermediate jazz band, which you just do not do to a child that wants to learn how to play, because first of all, it's jazz. Second of all, if it's intermediate. So with that, at the end of it all, it gave me the passion and drive, because I was going to school with like, man, these kids back when I was a child, not that nice. These kids nowadays, you're lucky if you have a blissful child. They get raised by proper parents. They come out good. Kids I was going to school with, man, they're like, get the fuck out of here. Don't touch the drums. You can't play. Like,
what school did you go to?
Man, that one was all the way out in Burlingame in San Francisco. So it was around more wealthier children.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was one of the more lower income kids. You know, we were living in a 1-bedroom apartment with like 5 different people in there. So at that point, my teacher was like, I see you got the passion. So here's a book. You can learn this stuff. You can play on your little practice pad at home. That didn't necessarily help me learn how to read. But one thing I did do, because I listen to music so excessively, I feel like it sounds weird, but when I listen to music, I know when it's on key. I know when it's the right notes. I know when it's the right progression, and I can hear when something's off. I've tried to even take a music theory course in college. I learned it, did not retain anything. I'm just that kind of person. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. And I don't know if it's like a God-given ability. I don't want to be one of those people like, oh, I'm blessed with this and that. But when I hear something that's off, I know it's off. And that's
let me tell you, are, man. Because I got kicked out of high school. And I didn't go back. Once I got kicked out, my dad put me straight to work construction. And I knew hard labor work wasn't my thing. When I got kicked out, I got put in community service. And a lot of people heard this story. Long story short, community service, supposed to clean this church for like 5 years. I was on probation.
Jeez,
yeah.
damn.
Yeah, I know. So one day they're like, Cruz, we need someone on camera. The guy didn't come. So that's where I kind of fell in love with the craft of video, and that's when I was like 18. So later down life, 19, 20, I started working, volunteering more churches and just got into media, man. I just taught myself production, video. And I always had an eye. No one taught me this. No one taught me the creativity, have an eye, composition. I didn't know composition. I didn't know none of this.
Straight up matters.
So I taught myself it. The only experience I had was at church. So I applied for my first job when we got married, my first real production job, my real job at Channel 26. And at first it was 24, but I didn't get that one. But Channel 26, I beat 5 dudes out that had the degrees. My resume was my name, birthday, everything. The only thing on there.
How'd that feel though,
bro?
How'd that feel?
It felt great. And again, and I'll tell you, man, it is a gift, because not many people are born with just a natural innate ability to learn. My daughter right here has an innate ability to learn quick. If anything, being so young now, she's taking full advantage. I was always afraid, but when I hear you say that, man, I think there are certain things where I know I'm very confident in, and I know where I speak. I am gifted. I don't get real arrogant about it, man, but I know there are people listening and watching that are afraid to walk in that. So I got to show them and speak about, like, look, God's given me a gift. I'm going to run it. I'm going to own it. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm not going to put me in a position where I think where I am, where I'm not going to be that guy, but I understand the gift, and it's very delicate, So I would say to you, man, own it. Not many people have it or walk in it. And it's a different energy, and it's a different person when they actually run in it and actually utilize it, And so again, it's the underdog story.
I like it because I feel like it works. It's relevant to what you had mentioned earlier about when you have people that are essentially doing what you do, there's a reason behind it. And when you embrace that feeling, exactly what you're saying, when you embrace the ability to understand what you actually hold as a person, not only can you lead the way for others, but that's actually when avenues begin to open up to a high degree. So I rock with it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I mean, again, I feel it. I know it. My wife always encourages me and tells me, man, just not many people are gifted like you. It's not like you're special or, maybe you are, you're not. It's just some people don't have it and they don't, and I've seen it where people have the money, where their family has the money to make them have it,
but they don't got it.
They don't got it. So again, it's something that you can't teach. It's just, I really believe it's what you're born with or what you've learned to experience in.
And just to touch base on that, I feel like one of the big parts that most people don't see is the support system as well. I feel like you could be somebody. It's like kids in the hood, for example. Most of these kids are scholars. Most of these kids are talented. Most of these kids have something to offer to the world, but their environment, their support system is at such a critical low position that it starts to put them under the impression that now I got to be in a box my whole life. Maybe even if I do have these talents, this is where life has subjected me to, but I feel like don't have a subjective mentality. You have to have an objective mentality. The more that you have objectives in life, you want to get somewhere, you begin to embrace, understand, and hone in on the things that, you're given. So, and I also feel like there's a personality being too humble sometimes. I feel like that can get in the way and hinder your success to a degree, because it's like, it's good to be humble, but it's also good to realize how much you bring to the table as well.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be a perfect balance. One thing I don't care for, man, I'll be real, man, is you get these artists, you get these, these creators, that want to talk from that state of humility and, this mindset of, achieving and believing and succeeding, but they, all they do is talk about fuck bitches and bang hoes. And it's like,
come on now.
But it's like, again, but there's like,
yeah,
all this has to coincide, man. There's got to be, I believe, because again, I've seen it, I've heard it, I experienced being 41, man. I've seen it. I've seen a lot, and it's like, man, dude, you're not what you're trying to put yourself. Your music or what you're doing behind the scenes is different than what you're trying to promote.
It's that illusion.
Yeah, and that's where I don't mess with stuff like that, man.
Delusion in the illusion, bro.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
That's real, but again, I understand the beginning stages. I understand where people grow from. It's like, hey, that's how it started. I was young, I was immature, but as I got older, of course, but let's get into now the
let's get it.
Dude, you're a multi-genre artist, internationally acclaimed. London, Indonesia, Japan, South Africa, Moldova, Russia.
Let me talk about it real
Bro,
quick.
talk about that. I mean,
right.
let's get that.
So look, when I had mentioned earlier that I was out of a spot to live at before this past year, when I was in that auto shop situation where I was literally sleeping in the garage, I was like, all right, what can I do that will set me apart from everyone else? I'm already at a disadvantage. I've moved so many times. I don't got the local love. I'm not on my feet. And I'm like, all right, let me go on SoundCloud. And I'm like, bro, I love Japanese culture. I rocked the anime growing up, video games, it was a deep embedded love for the culture. Like I started to like the way that their mannerism is. It's very identical to Middle Eastern mentalities. I am Middle Eastern Palestinian myself. So it's like the craziest part is like when I started gravitating toward it, I was like, I already make rap music. I wonder what Japanese rap sounds like. There was a record called Ichima that came out a couple of years ago. It featured like 3 different artists. I believe like one was Japanese, one was Chinese. Xiihab was in it. And there was a couple of other cats that I can't remember because I do pay attention to the Eastern hip hop scene. And at that time I was like, all right, let me go on SoundCloud. # Japanese rapper. # Japanese hip hop. And I start seeing a whole bunch of hip hop. I start seeing this, start seeing that. And I hit up one of the artists. I go on Google Translate. I'm like, hey, my name's so forth and so forth. I like your music. I checked it out. And that's the biggest thing. People are like, you have to understand the lyrics to enjoy the music. And I'm like, nah, that's where you got it fucked up because the reality is good music is good music. You can listen to it. It's different. If the lyrics end up translating to this, and that, I'm like, all right, I'm going to feel differently. Yeah. But the music itself, sonically, if it resonates, it's good music. So I hit him up and he's my age. The first one, shout out AQ. He goes like, here's a track. So I get on that track. Then the next dude I meet, I absolutely love it. So I'm like, bro, I like that track. I want to put it as a remix on my album coming out. His name is Young Joe's. And he rocked with it. Finally, I was like, all right, I want to take it to the next level. I was like, what if I get 3 different artists from Japan and put them all on the same track? And I'll produce it too. I ended up making the song for just me and the first dude that I talked to. Then I ended up reproducing the whole song. I go through this process a lot. I'll make the whole song and then I'll just destroy the beat, keep the lyrics, and remake the whole beat around the lyrics. Because I want to really amp it up. I want to beef it up and I want to give the song what it deserves. So I sent it to him and I'm like, I can't help but realize that we should throw somebody else on it. So we get another person. I'm like, nah, there's one more missing here. So this is where it gets fun because the homie that I hit up, at the time, he was like at a good like 10,000 views, this and that. And I was like, you got some buzz going on for you. And I do like your music genuinely. He got a little, he's like, got a little 50 Cent sound back in the 90s. So Get Rich or Die Trying, like that kind of sound. So I was like, my name is so forth and so forth. I am, and I'm approaching his management as my management. This is what I do for everyone because I feel like if you are an artist, you must represent yourself in the way that is going to allow yourself to be given opportunities. Like if you're going to be like, hey, what's up, bro? I like this. Give me an opportunity. It's like, no, bro, you got to, if this is business, you must represent yourself as business. It's honing in on understanding who you are.
It's taking yourself serious too, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I hit him up and I'm like, yo, I'm Xiihab's management. He's opened up for Snoop Dogg. We can touch on that next. He's accumulated this many views. He's a self-produced, self-engineered artist. I've also worked with this many people from Japan. And we would like to have a feature from your artist. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I shot so many shots in the dark. I was like, one of them has to land. One of them has to hit bullseye. And they end up hitting back and they're like, we love the track. We heard the other verses. We'll be sending you your verse back. So they send me his vocals. Take in mind, I don't speak Japanese. I've watched anime my whole life. Still can't even pick. I know like arigato, konnichiwa. Like
Yeah.
I know like the relative terms, but actually like conversational. And you know, it's a risky situation. For Lord knows what they're saying on my song. I don't have any idea until I get the lyrics and I translate it. So I'm like, all right, cool. They give me the vocals. I engineer all of their vocals.
Man.
3 different foreign artists. Put it up, and I put it on SoundCloud. And I produced it, engineered it. And then 1 year goes by. It's moving, maybe 3,000, 2,000 views. And then the next year goes by. Let me check real quick because I don't want to front on you. I want to tell you straight up. So go into SoundCloud right now. And it's crazy because for 2, I was already happy, bro. Like I was like, I got 3 international artists on my song. Like I don't know how many other people can say this, but as you can see right there, that first one is at.
This first one's at 351,000 K or 3K views. Yeah.
And I produced that bitch and I engineered it. So,
that's what's up, man.
And it gets good because the first year, if I go to the analytics on this one, where is it at? Well, let me check it out right there. But if I go to my insights, so I was doing okay on SoundCloud. And you know, I didn't ever want to be a SoundCloud rapper. I was like, I got to put myself on all platforms. I ended up doing it. But then, so what was it? 2019, I got 41,000 views. 2020, I got 16,000. Then 2021, 240,000. And as you can see on that graph,
yeah,
it's steady.
Put it on that camera.
It's steady and it's slow.
Focusing on that. Look at that. Yep.
And I'm not one to brag my analytics, but it's like, bro, like this is the process. If you want to start somewhere, you must, and you have to keep your vision going. And I didn't stop there. I was like, all right, I did this one. What's next? I already did Japan. And I'm talking to a homie from South Africa. Shout out Metro Boy, because he just put me on his album and he put my boy out from London. We produced this drill record and now it's literally coming out this Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And I hit up Metro Boy. And we've been trying to work for a minute. He's sending me tracks, I'm sending him tracks, but nothing's landing. Like we get shit done. But I'm not the person where I make a song and I just put it out. I'm like, bro, like this is beauty and perfection. And as an artist, as a creative, you always want things to be perfect. You're going to have to really take a step back and be like, now you can fly. I don't really know if you're perfect, but you know, you're somewhere. And at this point, I'm like, we got a track. And I was like, all right, I think this is one. This has to be the one. I put it on my album. He sends me a record. He's like, I want you to feature on it. I was like, better yet, bro, I want to put that on mine because I want to get your name out here in America. And then the same one with the Japanese feature, the remix that I had, I also put on the album. So somebody from Africa and Japan are both on my album at this point. And then he hits me up in about, like, I think 2 months later, he goes, bro, I need you to sign these release forms. They're trying to play our song on the radio here in Africa. Oh. And I just performed at the news station and I need your approval so, you know, you can get your royalties. I was like, cool, no problem. And then fast forward about the year ago where I was here. You know, I was collabing with more people from Japan, more people from a little bit all over. But here's the fun part. I made an album called Wallahi. Wallahi was one of my debut projects because number one, I specifically geared in to work on this album for about 2 years, 2.5 years. And I collected beats from other producers. This is where I start stepping out of that self-producer seat and give myself an opportunity as an artist to hone in on my writing abilities. You know, it's great that I can do it all, but can you do it right? Can you do it good? Can you do it correct? Jack of all trades is straight, but I mean, you got to at least have some like little glimmer in there. So at that point, I made the whole album centered around sounding Middle Eastern, like all the instruments, all the beats. And then I started putting Arabic in the actual music. I started rapping in Arabic too, kind of switched it up a little bit. Finally, when everything was all said and done, I released it. And it turns out a good population out in Russia is actually like Muslim. And it's like, man, I had one person checking out, 2 people checking out. Next thing I know, I got about like 100 people following me from Russia. They're blowing it up. And then I check my analytics and there's this one shop that's playing my music and I end up FaceTiming a homie. His name's Tony Brasco. Shout out Tony because he's one of the many, him and Mo Ovio. These 2 fools took it upon themselves to go to the extent to play my music in shops in Russia. And they were FaceTiming me. They're like, bro, check this out. We got your music playing in the shop. And I'm like, how in the hell is it possible? I'm out here in Fresno. Most of these motherfuckers don't even rock with me. Most of them are kicking me to the curb. Everywhere else I went, but out here in Japan, out here in Russia, they're all bumping my shit out here in Africa. And one of the beats is even the one that I got with my homie Metro Boy is produced by my homie Costfinger out in the UK in London. Yeah. And this fool is one of the biggest drill producers in the drill scene, the New York drill scene, UK drill scene. He's a gold producer now. One of his records went gold in Germany. and he played a part in Wallahi. He was the one that got me connected with Tony. Then Tony started throwing me on his lives. Then a bunch of people from Russia started following me, and I'm like, all right, cool. Then within this last year, I hit up somebody from Moldova. My homie Omar was like, yo, I'm in Moldova. I was like, no problem. Let me feature with a homie out from Moldova and we can get a show cracking. Like, it's fine. I can do it. All I need now is just the funding. And this was the biggest part. I had deals on the table. I had a lot of people where they see the talent there, but they don't actually see the potential. They're just like, yo, I can commercialize that. I can slap a sticker on it and brand it. And in my head, I'm like, man, I'm getting tired because things like music videos, things like press releases, things like ads, marketing campaigns, I don't got the funding for this shit. So I'm barely trying to stand on my feet, jumping place to place. So I'm like, all right, well, let me take it a step further. And this is a little bit down on the list, but Dying Breed Entertainment was a collective I started. I started looking at a couple artists I like, a couple producers. A homie changing the booth, Mateo, he's out in Visalia now. Fast forward 2 years later, he's now doing MMA fighting and 559 fights. I don't know if you ever heard about them.
No, yeah, I had on the sales rep, Mike T, on the pod, you know? So, yeah, I know about 559 fights, man.
The homie Matt is crazy with what he does. This fool looks like Bruce Lee in like a Hispanic body, I swear to God. I don't know if he got reincarnated or something, but he got kicks. He can swing good. And I went out to his fight, went to go support him. That was somebody that I had initially saw something in when I first dawned upon one of his videos. It's called Aura. It was shot by a homie named Jason out here too. Jason now runs Lab Theory and Commies World. Lab Theory has done editing for people like G Herbo, Future, Bobby Shmurda, and he ended up shooting Mateo's video. And I'm like, I like Mateo. I rock with him. There was a lot of artists that came and they went. There's a homie named Khalik out in Virginia. He's a self-producer. He's also an artist himself. And now he owns his own collective. Fast forward about 3 years after I was trying to put everything together. We kind of all worked together. I did a collaboration EP with Khalik. Another homie, Psychedelic Mike, out in Virginia. He's not in Arizona now. His TikTok ended up blowing up to, I think it was like 1 million or 10 million or something like that. He messes around with frequency programming with music, something that I'm into as well. So I put him on the breed. We did a song. It did phenomenal. And then I had my homie Trey on the track. Trey on the track is out there in North Charlotte. And Trey was the one that was the executive producer. He was working with a lot of bigger cats in the underground. He threw me a bone and started throwing me beats for free. And, you know, he's struggling himself, but he's still like seeing something in me. And I'm like, all right, y'all stick with me for a minute. Let me get this funding right and it's going to be straight. Some of them kind of went their way. Some of them did their own thing. And peace and love to them. I'm glad for them. They're doing their thing. They grew. And that's what I want from people, especially if I own a collective. I want to see them grow. You know, when I first met Matt, he wasn't fighting. He wanted to fight. He was training like crazy. Now he fights. You know, somebody like Khalik, he wasn't really indulged into finding other artists. Now he's finding his own artists. He owns his own collective called The Clips. Someone like Mike's going out to school out in Arizona now for music engineering. And Costfinger, when I see Costfinger and I see his accolades, people he's worked with, he's a gold producer now. And I'm like, I'm grateful to have gotten the opportunity to work with individuals so talented and so visionary and like-minded. So this is the last part that I got to. Dying Breed, what was left of it was, I don't want to sign a deal. I do need the funding. So, and I watched a lot of people kicked me game, but I was like, I think it's time to establish my own business license. I think we live in a wonderful world where people believe that personal credit is the only thing that you can utilize in order to get things on credit and develop something called good debt. If you're doing something in terms of an investment that is lucrative, because I do study the market as well. I got a homie that does Forex and he has over 500 students in a very successful university. And, you know, taking those lucrative leaps, shout out Tyler Vitulo. I got to make sure I always mention them, but he really put me in a perspective of realizing how much of a lucrative mindset you have to look into things. And I got a music career that's already taken off. Now it just needs some funding. So I'm like, I can't do personal credit. Couple people kicked me game about business credit. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me I can get business essentials? I can get an office location. I can get a business vehicle. I can get up to $200,000 in business credit. And if it's work essential related, it's all a write-off. And I'm like, and I'm about
sleeping on it. Huh? People sleep on it.
Hold on, it gets good because I'm like, and you mean to tell me I'm gonna sign a 75% contract to give these people my music that I created from scratch because I need their money that I have to pay back in the end? I'm like, bro, if I'm gonna go in debt, Why didn't I go and debt myself, own everything, and then end up making it all back by profit? Realistically, if I go do a tour myself, I got the funding for it, you get to have flights waived, you get to have lodging waived for business expenses. So I'm like, all right, if I go out to Japan and I literally have over like, I think damn near 500 people listening from Japan, and that's just in 1 month. And I'm like, if I do 5 shows in Japan, have 100 people, and I always like to do that. I bring out my calculator and I'm like, let me do fun mental math real quick. There's about 100 people in the building. Concert tickets range anywhere from $25 to $75. So if I do 100,
get on that, Lily.
I do 100 people show up to the show, okay, and I times that by $25. I now have $2,500 that I just made. And it gets better because $25 in the US is not $25 wherever you go if you understand foreign exchange. Whatever the conversion rate is to yen, if I'm to really take a leap of faith and invest into myself, let's say, let's be creative. 100 people, right? Let's take that to $35. I'm now making $3,500. And let's keep it real quick. We're going to have to minus liability. Let's say $250 liability insurance for the event. We're going to have to minus another $250 for security. We're going to have to talk to the venue management. We're going to have to pay the opening artist, but it's no problem because if I'm averaging at least, let's say $1,750 a show and times that by 5 shows, you mean to tell me that I just flew all the way half across the damn globe. I set up these shows. I got bare minimum, paid everyone off, and I'm going home with damn near 10 racks in my pocket.
Yeah.
For $0.
On none of your dime. Not your dime.
And the craziest part is, and I'm like, all I got to do now, build up my business credit, kick back, keep making music, keep releasing. And this is the craziest thing. Last year, I did 1 album a month for 4 months. So I did an EP with 5 tracks. I did a collaboration album with all the homies on it. I think it was like 20 tracks, if I'm not mistaken. I released another one in December. And I'm literally, as we speak, I have a whole ass album on my phone that I have not released, and I'm still working on 2 more.
Let's go. So right now you have Xiihab, you have your own LLC, you have your book, dude.
Oh yeah.
See, I feel like that's the next level of what we have right here is perfecting your craft. You know, again, people see the artistry, they see the art, I have a passion for it. But when the passion is not enough, you actually got to have the passion for the behind the scenes, the EIN, the LLC, the thinking behind it. Because again, most artists, even back in the day, man, when these artists that hit, like when you see Straight Outta Compton, these guys they don't own their music. It's like they just jump into it without the business knowledge, the business deal. And it's like, you don't own it. I own it, but you've taken it upon yourself. It's like, why am I going to have to pay all this out when I know I just can do it myself? And again, that's perfecting the craft. There's more than just putting out music and have a passion. I'm good at it. Like what turned that switch on for you?
Okay, so being Middle Eastern, I have to take accountability that yes, my ethnicity, my people, we create music as well. We take inspiration from other music. Until I had realized, I was like, man, this is not my culture. I could step into hip hop. I can make rock music, symphony music, any of these kind of musics that have such a long history of culture predating back to the 18th century. And I'd still bet that it still originates from one cultural group. We all share. That's the wonderful thing about music. It's very universal, but realizing I'm also creating a craft that also requires me to conjoin my culture with others' culture. And for a while, my family grew up in the street. I started to develop a street mentality myself. I started to go through things myself, Section 8 living, EBT, having our houses robbed, getting jumped by people, getting stuck up, everything like that. So at that point, I was like, even my own cousins, my blood cousin, he is African-American. I have a whole half of my family that's literally African-American. In my head, I'm like, I can just go about my way saying whatever I want to say. We do live in 2023 on the other hand, and if you can offend somebody off of a pronoun because it is what they prefer to be, called by, when I start using per se what others like to look at it as racial slurs, I'm like, okay, I was literally in the boat where I grew up my whole life a certain way, but then I go, you ever watch Malibu's Most Wanted?
Dude, hell yeah. Those are old school stuff.
I had the same exact moment where that fool goes up and performs and the whole club goes silent. I had one of those moments.
Wow.
And from that exact moment, almost half of Fresno banned me from ever even booking me. the promotion, and shout out to them. You know, they're conducting their business. They don't want to be represented incorrectly. They don't want to be held accountable. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all. You know what I mean? Like, I had to go through that whole process to realize, like, number one, I could still go about my creativity a whole different way. Number two, I got to be in a different mindset as to where I am approachable and attractable, even through a business mindset that I can be, to shun other people off and scare them off because I'm saying something I grew up on. So at that point, that's one thing. Number two, I don't want my royalties stripped away. I don't need A, B, and C to go and find out what a distribution deal is and get my music on all platforms. I don't need to go to A, B, and C to get an ASCAP, which is literally your copywriting and your publishing, and get it, you know, registered with the government. I don't need people for this stuff. I mean, I think that it's ironic. We spend maybe a good 8 hours. You can go to your settings and check your screen time. You spend however long you spend on these things, but you can't use Google and find out, how do I do what a label does? How do I go to, what is that, LinkedIn? Why can't I just go to LinkedIn and type up, who is the marketing consultant for here? You know, go to Upwork and find somebody in the same exact way. You know, I feel like retracing the steps of others and finding out where your faults are at, that perfects your craft eventually. And when you're even in the mentality of perfecting your craft, you're like, how can I take this a step further without costing my business jeopardy? And even just having the mentality of what I am doing is business. I must conduct myself as business. You know, when I hit up Still Here Podcast, I don't say, what's up, bro? How are you doing? You know, like, I say, you know, good afternoon.
Yeah,
my name is so
cordial,
forth.
man.
You have to approach people professionally. You have to even give them the sense of professionalism that they deserve as a company, as somebody that you want to collaborate with. You have to understand what kind of jeopardy they put on the line just for collaborating with you. And that goes for anybody. So it's like, just carrying myself in a different mentality.
Yeah, I mean, that's real, because again, that's what's tough, because I get a lot of messages, a lot of people hit me up on on my DMs especially, and it's like, and they come at, yo, how do I jump on the pod? Yo, bro. Nah. And I don't respond, because again, it's like one of those things, like I go through their profile, I look them up, and it's like, got to properly vet these, because again, man, it's like, I'm all about giving people their voices, whether I agree with them or not, whether we have a same belief. Nah, man, if you have a story, I want to tell it, but I don't want something creep up and be like, hey, he was on this show, he's affiliate, you know, because you got to be careful.
Guilty by association, straight
yes, up. And so I'm very aware, and you know, when I looked you up, followed you, and you know, just started connecting, man, I just knew right out the gate the vibes, you know, and so again, man, this is called perfecting it. You know, this is perfecting your craft, man. And again, there's so much more than just your passion, I believe. There's so much more than it, because again, that'll speak for itself. The work will speak for itself, but the understanding and the maturity behind the process and proving the concept of it is so much deeper than just passion, you know? And I think that's kind of where we've learned in our struggles to be, all right, this can't just be like, hey, we're a small business, we're this. No, man, we, like, you start taking yourself as such, as I'm my own agent.
Straight up.
Yo, that's what we did. You know, there's some, I can look back at many times, like, I didn't conduct myself professionally here. I was just, I was like, you know, I'm going to treat it like this. And you can't, you know, there's got to be certain ways to approach certain clients if you especially want the cash cow type of business and stuff.
No, straight up.
You know, so and I think hearing you, man, again, to harp on the age, man, there's not many people like you, especially in your generation. This is a next level. This is like the perfection of it, man. And you know, dude, I'm seriously blessed to have you on, man, because this is just shows me, man, if this is, you know, what one guy is and your impact just starting out, like you said, it's just imagine the impact when you actually start living it out, when you start seeing the fruits of it, you know, all the more.
I like that. And I just want to add on that it's exactly what you were talking about finding the way to conduct yourself correctly, present yourself correctly. I feel like if you take your career of whatever you decide to put yourself out there in, if you can understand that everything is a learning experience and like, okay, we can take away from that and look at it with a different mentality, approach it differently. I feel like that's where I ended up getting in the end, because I was like, for me, this is all the start. It's almost been about like 8 years invested. And I'm just like, this is still the start. We haven't even left onto the highway yet to where we got to go. You know, when I start touring, one of the biggest things of why I established my LLC, aside from just funding, I enjoy actually bringing other people's visions to life myself. Like, and that's exactly where it's what I said earlier. You're only as valuable and as wealthy as you spread that wealth around. And I'm already in the mentality of if I'm going to be going to school, taking a course over there, right now, the professor that I'm currently enrolled with that does audio production, he used to actually work out in LA and recorded a lot of bigger artists, and I can actually get certified within Pro Tools. You know, right now I'm working at FL Studio, one of the many DAWs, digital audio workstations, one of the many things that you can create beats in, record in. But now I'm taking it to the next level this year. I got something called Ableton, Logic, and Pro Tools. So all three of those programs, I am now cross-platforming everything that I do, so then I can, you know, utilize different things. And I want to start recording other people. I want to bring it to life, own my own studio. If I can have an office location, why don't we amp it up? Why don't we take it to the next level? It's like, and there's a bag in it all, but
that's real.
A lot of prosperity in it too.
Yeah, man. And again, there's nothing wrong with knowing that, hey, I know what I want. I know what I'm going to get. I know my experiences. Again, this is kind of the difference of knowing, you know, hold on, let me see this thing.
Now you say.
You're good. I don't want this thing to ruin it.
Is that the Duck Hunt from Super Nintendo?
Duck Hunt, boy.
Man.
You know, but one thing I love about, because I don't want to just fall and ruin the whole vibe, man. All my pops will fall.
Man.
Yeah. So
he said I can predict the future with this.
I already know. I already felt it.
Man.
You know, but let me ask you, because again, you're putting a lot of work and effort to it. It's not like you just can show up, like we said earlier. It's like you can't just show up and say, hey, I have a production company and all right, I'm this. Well, what do you know? What is your experience? You know, because again, to work with big names out there, I mean, to get in the next topic, man, you know, who have you worked with? Because again, all the work, like you said, Pro Tools, it's not like you just, you know, I know I know GarageBand.
I got that too.
But you understand, but it's like, everyone can use it, but
Straight
not
up.
everyone can use it. Because I have Pro Tools and I don't know how to use it.
And it looks like a different language.
It's different, you know? So I think for what I do, I think that's the next level when I get my studio, because we definitely want it. Because again, it's going to coincide with my foundation, my business, and my podcast, you know? And so all that has to, I know how to set up audio, sound, all that lighting, man. But with your experience and what you know, led you to where you're at and where you've come from, man. Who have you worked with? Because there's a list.
Oh, I got you.
That I can name, but I'd rather you name it, man, and kind of go from there. What was the experience like, and how'd you get connected with them, and get into that.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I as an audio engineer myself, I'm on the map with a couple people that I've worked with. Others like Mike Dean, for example. He's one of the more predominant audio engineers that works with Travis Scott, Kanye West. Dr. Dre is an engineer himself. There's a lot of engineers in between the scenes that a lot of people don't notice. This is a lot of the back end work. It's like the show in front can't go on without the people in the back behind the scenes. So with this one, I got contacted by a homie out here in Fresno. His name is Ferris. I no longer talk to him, unfortunately. This was another one of my learning experiences, one of many. I approached the situation incorrectly because I was more concerned about the royalties of how I would be getting my splits on the song. I wanted to get paid out immediately instead of understanding the longevity of how many streams it actually takes for something to become lucrative. And I got carried away myself. I was like, well, the song's going good, but I feel like I'm not getting anything out of it. And, you know, Ferris was being respectful. He's like, bro, I've been doing this for a minute. And, you know, I'm trying to be as kind as possible. But seriously, you're asking for chump change right now. And it's chump change to you too. And I'm like, it threw me off because there was so much work that went into just making the record and not the place that I was in with my career. I was like, man, like, I got to take the L for this one, because reality is when time moved on, I was like, nah, like something else is going on here. Like, I feel like I'm not getting my end, but reality was, I was like, number one, Ferris threw me on a track, didn't have to do that. And he's been in Fresno for a minute.
Yeah.
Number two, he threw me the beat, made a cover art, got it designed and everything, even got a motion graphic for it. And then number three, most of all, he put me in the position to work with somebody named DJ Fi. Now, DJ Fi is actually one of the primary audio engineer that works on almost every song by Ty Dolla $ign. Any songs that you hear by Ty Dolla $ign, whether it's by Kanye stuff, whether anything he's featured on, whether it's his solo stuff, 9 times out of 10, you're listening to DJ Fi. And he ended up mixing my vocals personally on Ferris's song. So I was like, that's crazy. He threw me a follow, and I was like, man, that's all love. It's just like, I felt like I had to take the L because I was like, man, you know, he brought me into this opportunity, put me in front of somebody. It was dope, but I was like, damn, like I really threw it out the window. But, you know, we got to keep it moving. Next one, I got a homie that was following me. I forgot where he followed me from. His name's, I don't remember his handle off the top of my head, but he ended up spreading the word about me. And then a homie named John G started following me. John G is a famous producer for a couple of cats, but one of the most notable ones, somebody that is now a platinum selling artist, which is Doja Cat. He's actually produced for her as well. Started following me, started to take a liking into my music. Afterwards, a little bit early before any of this happened, there was a homie by the name of Lance Rodriguez. I also don't talk to Lance Rodriguez anymore, unfortunately, and it's because there was a lot of miscommunications in between the seams. But one of the biggest things while we were kind of working with each other, trying to work on features and so forth and so forth, he's like, hey, there's this performance opportunity and I'd love to give you a slot in this performance. And the main headliner for the whole show is Snoop Dogg. And I'm like, this is crazy. It's Snoop Dogg. He put his alias under DJ Snoopadelic. He was out in Reedley. It was at a place called the Wake House.
Oh, I heard about that.
Oh, it's a beautiful venue. And I ended up performing there. And by the end of the night, the venue manager approached me and said, man, I know you were on the smaller stage, but after seeing the main artist, I feel like you out of all the performances should have been on the main stage. And I was like, man, that's love. And I ended up going back for 559 fights to watch my boy Matt fight. Yeah. So am I forgetting anybody on that list?
Yo, I mean, you mentioned for Sean is Willie G, Stilo.
Willie G, hold on. So Willie G, I want to get you right there. My homie Stilo, I got acquainted with him and Willie G when they both walked into Peter Grill when I used to work at Peter Grill. And this is the same time where Fashawn, I got called out of work so then I can go and, pay him a visit. But these two homies, they walked into the restaurant and I saw their character. That, they dress a little bit more alternatively, like they're into a different kind of scene with hip hop, more underground. A lot of artists that I enjoy, they also enjoy as well. But I have an eye for artists. So when I see somebody dressed in a certain way or talking a certain way, and I'm like, I know there's a little something else going on here. So I stopped what I was doing, got out of work mode, and I was like, you guys make music? Like, I'm literally serving them food, and I'm like, y'all make music? And he's like, yeah, I make music. And he's like, yeah, this is my homie Will. He makes music too. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, this is crazy. So after they leave, they give me their Instagrams, and I go online and I check out Stilo shit. I eventually get acquainted with somebody by the name of Infinity is Dead. He's also out here in Fresno.
Yeah, I see that right there.
There's a lot of underground artists here in Fresno that I've got acquainted with, but these homies, it came full circle because they really treated me like family, and they really treated me good when I first initially met them. And the craziest part to it all is they already got a lot going on for them. They've done shows. They go in and out of Fresno, kind of doing shows in Bakersfield and other places. And the homie Willie is actually a producer with credits for people like Smoke Perp. It's the homie that was like best friends with Lil Pump. Also he's a late rapper. So he's a rapper that passed away by the name of Lil Peep. He was one of the most alternative, like underground rappers you can imagine. Willie's produced for him. And Willie also produced for one of the late rappers by the name of XXXTentacion. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
Willie ended up actually producing some of his older stuff as well.
Oh, shit.
So when he had walked into Peter Grill and I had noticed and I was talking to them, and then I ended up seeing his credits. And then the homie Will, as of recently, he's like, I like the song that you did because I asked him for a beat. And, he could have charged me. He could have been going about it the way producers do, but he's like, I fuck with your music. Here's a beat. And I was like, I like that one too. And he's like, here's the other beat. I sent him back the rough copy and I was like, bro, to be honest with you, my shit, like my lyrics are straight, but the take and the engineering is trash. Like, I'm going to be 100% because I'm a very hard critique on my music. And he's like, bro, to be real with you, I like it. And I really like it. And I hope you fix it and keep it. And while we're at it, here's 20 more beats.
Damn.
And I'm like, and I'm just sitting there, and every day that goes by and I keep having more and more opportunities fall in my lap, I'm like, I got to make sure that I do something with it, because that's one of the biggest parts to success, I feel like, because there's going to be a lot of scenarios where things fall in your lap or things come due to your hard work. But if you do not take advantage of the opportunities life has given you, it will pass you by. It is not coming, and there's no promise it's coming back either. There's no promise that like, oh, this one's gone, another one will come. You can keep working. Lord knows, something comes your way. But in these instances, after losing out on, connecting with mutual artists, losing out on other situations, I'm like, nowadays, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna appreciate it as it comes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like that's the man, because again, you're saying a lot. I mean, again, this one of these things where again, all this happened. And I would say in the span of years, how long was this? How long ago was this? Like everything you just mentioned, man. Give like a
Snoop Dogg. That performance was out in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 years after I graduated high school. If somebody were to come up to me and be like, "Yo, you're gonna be opening up for Snoop Dogg in 2 years," I'll be like, I'm selling burnt CDs at my high school and you're about to tell me what? And I grew up on Snoop too. So like I grew up on a lot of different artists, and that happened. Then I end up working with DJ Fi. Then I end up meeting Fashawn.
So you're like a 5-6 year span.
All
really?
of it, yeah. And one thing after the next, the ball keeps rolling. And the craziest part is I'm currently even talking to people. I've had scenarios where I've had some bigger cats actually come and check out my Instagram profile. I don't feel the need to like put it out there, but I definitely have had people watch me. I've had different labels approach me. I've had a lot of opportunities come my way, but one of the biggest things is if I take advantage of understanding and learning, it may take a little bit longer, but I'm going to be able to help everyone else at the end of it. because I do plan to sit in that executive seat. I am the CEO of Dying Breed Entertainment, and it's going to be an entertainment company. I'm not stopping at a record label. So with that being said, I was like, all right, we're going to do this. I can make a studio. I can go tour, do all these nice things, but it's all a process. Yeah. It takes a minute.
It does, man. And again, it goes further than just passion. It has to go further than that, you know. Let me ask you this, kind of like a side note, because I know in the industry, man, I hear and I see it a lot. People clout chase. They like to say, well, so-and-so co-signed so-and-so, that co-signed them. You know, I worked with them. And, you know, how careful are you to try to like not overhype, you know, oversell that, even though, you know, like, oh, you know, a lot of people think, well, I was in the same room with them, basically, and you walk past each other. You know, how careful are you? How aware are you of that, and not to be that type of artist? You know, how common you've experienced that?
You know, it's ironic because that's the exact reason why I don't mention these things when people come to talk to me. These are the kind of things that you use as accolades when you present yourself as a business to another business. You know, your brand can benefit from my brand because my brand is affiliated with X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But if I just approach you and be like, oh, did you know so forth and so forth likes my shit? Did you know, like, oh, I got homie in the corner and I got like, nah, bro, because at that point you ain't feeding off of your own shit. You're feeding off of everybody else. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the difference between me. If I got a handful of motherfuckers like out here coming to me to kind of take what I got going on, it clearly goes to show the more that I'm going to go and be like, oh, he co-signed me and he co-signed me. They're all doing what I do for a reason. So if I'm going to start playing that clout role, it's like you're killing your own success at that point. Right. And I don't want to be famous off of another man's success. I want to be famous off of my success. And I'm already famous to me. I'm already successful to me. And until the world catches up with it, I already have the opportunity to have somebody on a podcast acknowledge it. You know what I mean? And it's not just any podcast to me. Like, this is something that will forever be like, this is the first shit where somebody actually saw something in me. So it digs deeper.
You know? I see it, man. Again, man, I correlate this to really my experiences. It's not so much I'm trying to hit the clout. I'm not so much I'm trying to hit the big, you know, the big, just viral, all that, man. It's more than that to me. You know, because I talking to you and getting, you know, having the conversation and talking about the story, because again, it's easy to throw out the clout chasing. It's easy to throw, well, I have this. Yeah, it's easy to hear and see that, but it's so much, it makes it more sense when you, again, tell the story behind it. It's the glory. Again, that resonates with me so much, you know, and to have you on, man, to actually, you know, vocalize it, put it out there, man, put it out there and, you know, and just on the internet and the world, man, it's like, yeah, dude, it's real, it's legit, you know, and that's the vibe that just is really standing out to me the most, man. Is I see the story, man. You know, I see and I feel and hear the struggle, but
that's love.
Yo, it's more than that, because you even say right here, it's like, you know, not needing a deal to create the opportunity, you know, making a difference and applying yourself in a different place as an artist, you know, and it's one of those things, man. It's more than just the passion. It's more, oh, I like making beats. Oh, I like, you know, I like putting this stuff, I like putting stuff out there.
Yeah.
Nah, man, it's way more than that. You know, and a lot of people they get caught up in the hype. They get caught up in the moment of it. It's like, no. Like, again, my favorite movie, Eminem, he goes out, Shelter, he goes out and beats Papa Doc. He's like, I gotta go. He's like, what you mean you gotta go, man? You don't have to work no more. What you mean you work? I gotta go to work.
Shit.
You know, everyone's so stuck in the moment of the hype. It's like, no, I'm gonna lose my job, man. I gotta pay my bills still.
And I wanna you know? No, straight up, because it's crazy, because day I wake up, I got 100,000 streams on my song. I'm like, this is lit. This is cool. Now I gotta go to that Korean fried chicken place that I work at. Like, and then you come home and you're like, but I'm the artist, bro. Like, and then you'll go to work and you'll even tell your coworkers, like, bro, you know what just happened last night? Yeah. Do you know what happened with my music? And then, like, it's just crazy because you do have to be practical. You have to be realistic. But at the same damn time, within the same conversation, you have to be like, nah, like, I'm victorious. I triumph. Like, this is, I built this and I'm eating off of my shit and I'm about to feed the whole community with the next. Yep. So it's like, I love it, and I resonate with that heavy, for real. Yeah,
that's what's up, man. I mean, again, that's the foundation for still here, man. Because again, at the end of it, man, you're still here, bro. You're still putting in the work. You're still putting in that sweat equity, and that's one of the. I think a lot of people get frustrated with the sweat. They get frustrated with like, man, it's too much. I didn't expect this. You know, it's like, man, the calling, man, it's different when you're called to do something dope, man, because the calling will get complicated. You know, unless you're born with a family member that has a billionaire, bro, expect it to be tough.
And imagine those same ones may still not even got it like that.
Yep.
Like they may have the funding, but they don't got the creativity like that. And we were talking about that earlier, and it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And again, I vibe with those people that have been in the dirt and that triumph through it, man. Because again, that's my story. That's our story as a family, man. You know, my sickness and happening to me, man. I look back at it, it's like, me and my wife even, when I got better, when I could actually come into my office here and do the work, we left another podcast. I was like, I want to tell the story. What's the story? You know, God, give me an idea. What should I call it? I wanted to relate. I don't want to be the same old knockoff pod. And, you know, it's just all I kept reflecting on everything that happened to me that I went through from a child to where I was at now. And out of all that, I sat back. I was like, man, but I'm still here, man. Still here.
Straight up.
You know, and that's when it hit, you know, and that's like, out of all that, man, I'm still here. And it's like, but I've not arrived, you know. So, yo, man, I mean, such a great pod, such an awesome conversation to hear your story. I'm honored, man, that, you know, this is the first time you telling your story, and to get it out there, solidify it, man, and just cement it into history, you know, in the podcasting world, man, because I do believe you are on that path, you know, that you are on it already, and that it's just a matter of time, you know, because that one beat, that one lyric, that one passion project, that one thing. Before we end, you know, talk about your future projects and current projects, Absolutely. You know, Absolutely. To really, and how people can find you, get to know you, where to look for you, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Man.
So last project, that just came out, it's called Murder, She Wrote. It's a whole concept album about what I was going through to get where I'm at this year. I got a new project coming out real soon. I don't want to talk about it too much just because I want to get it finalized before it's out, but just know we working. And finally, the project that comes after that, just know this much: I am doing what nobody has ever done with music before. I know it sounds crazy, but on the production half of it, I'm managing to do a lot that I will not speak about right now, but definitely I'm gonna let you be on the loop as soon as things come to production. And it's some groundbreaking stuff with music. Like, it's definitely taking it into a different direction, doing it the way that nobody else has ever done it. So it's like, we got that coming out. And before I go, one more time, shout out to Still Here Podcast. Thank you so much for this opportunity. A little bit Arabic, Demi Falastini. And at the end of it, I appreciate you guys. That's love. And check out the new shit and just stay up. Don't sleep. Like,
that's right. Or you get slept on.
Straight up.
So, well, I mean, dude, that's so dope. But, you know, I can tell your vibe, man. You like to speak into people's life. You know, I do this thing on the show. Last words, last thoughts, man. Someone listening and watching that may be an aspiring artist, music producer, sound engineer.
I got something to say.
Say it. Speak to him, man.
One thing that I do want to say before I go is believe in yourself. There is nothing more powerful in this world than your ability to have self-belief. As human beings, we can do such miraculous things that all are dictated upon how much we believe in ourselves. So no matter what you go through, no matter what odds are against you, no matter your environment, situation, what you've been through, you can still set your mind to what you believe in. So always believe in yourself, follow your dreams, and make sure to never give up. It's all about consistency, resiliency, and perseverance.
That's real. Baby, I know, wifey here, I know we just went straight to the topic, but overall, what do you think about the pod, and, you know, where you at with all that too?
Yeah, it was a great pod. I know Jose had mentioned, you know.
Go to 6, get you on camera, girl. Don't be hating. Oh, man.
Jose had mentioned that someone had messaged him. I was like, oh, that's cool. And now hearing your story is so cool that you're in the valley.
Yeah.
You know, and that you're reaching, and your music is going beyond just our state.
Thank you.
Out the country. I mean, that's a great achievement, and I'm so glad to hear your story.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak it. And after moving everywhere, and I usually tell people I'm from California and ending up in the valley where I was born, it's just like, it's crazy because moving everywhere and shedding my music everywhere to get this opportunity to receive love from a place like this, it's inspiring, because it's like, damn, like, I got people that show me love still. So it's it's heartwarming for real.
No, yeah, I mean, you got my support. We're here. Definitely so glad that we connected, and I feel like things worked out the way it was supposed to work out in the right timing. Whatever you need, man, we'll plan it. We'll do work.
Absolutely.
I feel like people listening and watching, and my last word, man, is, you are your own limiter on what you want to achieve, man. I don't want to get cliche, but I'm here to renew it. But you achieve what you want.
Absolutely.
But the work you put into it is the same amount of effort you'll get out of it. And I feel like you've put the work in, man.
Absolutely.
And the efforts and the fruits of it are coming and are here. You're walking in it. So, dude, I pray continued success. I pray that you keep putting out next level stuff, man. The Central Valley needs, California, United States, and worldwide. Because again, you're not just in the Central Valley. You're in Japan. You're everywhere, man. So you're worldwide, So everyone likes to say, "Oh, well, it's just Fresno, Central Valley." No one knows about Fresno. Well, they do now. They have known. So again, like you said, man, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it.
Last thing before I go, I just want to mention I got a little company going on called Indigenous Unity. It's gonna be an herbal tea company. We're gonna have I love when you talk about the foundation because I got something like that a little bit going. I'll definitely speak about it a little bit more, and maybe we could talk about it afterwards. But more things aside from music coming soon, and make an impact the best way you can. And we're still here.
That's right. You guys stay tuned. I appreciate you guys' time, man. Follow this, man. I'm gonna have his social media all in the description below. A lot of love and support we get from Apple Podcasts and Spotify, man. So that's, again, man, people are listening and watching. So you guys stay tuned, man. Season 3 is finna wrap up soon. But go check out season 2. Go check out season 1. Go check out all our pilot episodes.
Don't sleep.
Yeah, go check it out, man. Go catch up on that history of Still Here. I love you guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.